Mr. Anurag Saxena, thank you so much for speaking with the CSR Journal. First, I would like to understand what you are involved in, the initiative that you have taken, and the vision behind it.
I run the World Education Foundation for Asia Pacific. I'm based in Singapore, and I run a lot of initiatives within the kindergarten through 12 standard schools in cooperation with governments and corporates, which are largely around three areas. One is around school assessments and school quality. So how can we as a group deliver better schools to kids? Second is around education policy, which is how can governments structurally change the way education is run and perceived within their own countries. And the third is education access. So how do we bring more children, especially girl children, back into schools? And what are the hurdles that are preventing them from being in school today? So those are the three broad areas that we work in.
Okay, give me a more detailed understanding of the grassroots level. How is this working in India?
Well, I think so. There's a couple of very positive moves that the Indian government has made of late. Um, a I think the Indian government or specifically the HRD ministry, has brought in a lot of transparency measures, which we think is really important. And I'm sure you guys followed the news of the Honorable HRD Minister inaugurating the portal a couple of weeks back. Um, it seems like a small step now, but countries that have done this 10 or 20 or 30 years back are seeing the benefits pouring in within half a generation or a generation. Secondly, I'm personally a fan of being a father of a kid, of a girl child. I'm a fan of anything that keeps girls in schools. I mean, we work with the United Nations Girls Education Initiative, and the whole focus on Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. The structural implementation of it again will take a time because India is a huge country, but I think it's a huge positive movement around keeping girls in school. And girls grow up to become educators to their own children, to their own families. Their personal and professional lives change. Their relationships once they get married with their changes with their husbands. Once they have the ability to have a conversation at par with their husbands.
What can we do to improve the implementation and make it a lot more effective after the funds have been directed towards the education sector?
I think this is the most beautiful question which isn't being asked today, and thank you for asking that question. Most corporates view CSR very unidimensionally, which is what's the number on the check, right? What needs to happen is a couple of things, right? India, and again, we're at a very nascent stage. A, how do we measure CSR in terms of the return on investment? And when I say return on investment, I mean the social return on investments. There are a few tools and methodologies which we can adopt from the West. SROI, again, is the most common of them. And I really think we need to start reporting the social benefits of corporate engagements, right? Two, CSR as an area of study hasn't existed or evolved enough in the past, right? So a challenge is finding talent within CSR. Is a huge challenge in Indian corporates today. So hypothetically, if I wanted to give somebody $1 million, it would I would find it really difficult to bring in the right kind of talent, right? So I think corporates should, I would say, corporates should set aside a part of their CSR budget to actually build capability within their CSR teams to deploy their budgets smartly. As the example, you could either throw 100 rupees down the drain or spend 2 rupees on training your CSR manager, so the other 98 is spent wisely, and then use ROI, SROI kind of tools to then track that investment.
That's a very good suggestion. But I would like to understand a lot of corporates are after a certain point are reluctant to spend. Do you think it was really necessary for the 2% to be made mandatory, or it should have been voluntary? And at the same time, do we need supervision? Do we need a monitoring body for their activities after it's been made mandatory?
Well, the question is way above my pay grade, and I wouldn't want to tread into the political aspects of that question. What I do agree with is is that the industry as a whole needs to take ownership to reverse the benefits of, on societies and communities, on the ecology and the general ecosystem that they involve in. Now, whether mandating that involvement was the right approach or voluntary is the right approach, I don't know. So to me, it's the awareness of the responsibility which is more important than whether it's 2% or 0.2% or whatever else.
There was a Harvard Business Review report which came out in 2001, and that spoke about CSR. So, over there, they explained that CSR is a shared value concept. It is not a give and take the way we have it in India. What do you think we can do to bring that shared value concept and not just live it, keep it as a give and take? You know, you just don't want to give, leave it, and you're away and done with it because it's part of CSR and 2% is mandatory. How do you think we can bring the shared value concept and implement strongly till the grassroots level?
I think there are 2 or 3 steps to that, right? The first step is for corporates to genuinely understand that they are not in a transactional relationship with the community that they're engaging with. They actually, it's a codependent kind of a system, right? Where a corporate is a part of the larger community, right? So I think that understanding will take some time to develop, but when a community grows, when a community becomes more prosperous, when a community has more educated talent that the corporate can employ, the corporate has therefore grown its customer base, grown its the talent base and things like that. So I think that understanding is step one. Step two is to look at CSR not as a cutting a check business as you called it, but as a process that involves a bunch of stakeholders, which is again, so going back to my earlier point, which is why corporates need to nurture talent within the CSR management function itself, right? So that's step two. Step three is really employees, right? There's so much of empirical data out there, including the study that you talked of, which says that a spend on CSR has a direct bearing on employee morale, which has a direct bearing on shareholder value, right? So let's assume hypothetically, which is kind of true in this part of the world. Let's assume that that there's a absolutely selfish evil corporation, right? Hypothetically, right? Even for them, it would make sense to invest in CSR because then that would reflect in their share price. Looking better is a part of it. Doing better is the bigger part of it, right? And I think that's the difference between doing CSR and doing CSR smartly. If you do CSR, you look good. If you do CSR smartly, you are good. And there's just so much of if you look at what PNG does, what Reckitt and Benckiser does. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these guys. Am I allowed to give specific examples? Reckitt and Benckiser, as an example, ran a lot of cleanliness and hygiene programs in schools across Bihar and UP and a bunch of states in India. So it was a program that started in 2011 or 12, I'm not too sure, but within the last 5 years. They are now seeing a generation of students, most of whom are first generation learners, so their parents are not educated. So they're seeing kids who've gotten used to washing their hands before meals or after going to the loo or what have you, right? And that's where you're cultivating a customer base, right? So you're giving away free Dettol for a year to a kid who will then buy it for the next 60 years or 70 years or 80 years. So I think there is real value to be derived out of CSR efforts. So if you do it, you could either do it from that perspective, or you could just do it to wash away your sins. I mean, the choice is yours. But either ways, there is value in investing in CSR effort.
Washing away your sins with Dettol for sure. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking with us.